What? Did you think I was gonna make a joke about Arizona? Were you actually expecting that? Look, she is a part of the No Bully Club. No one can bully her at all because she is precious and does not deserve any of it. She's been through enough already, gosh dang it, and I'm not gonna let her deal with it anymore. And if anyone thinks of doing such despicable things to her, I will go to where they are and destroy everyone there, and then myself. Don't test me, because I'll do it, and I'll make sure it... Wait, Arizona wouldn't want that. Fine. But for those of you thinking of bullying her, I got a message for you.
Stop it. Get some help.
Alright, up next is our well-known battleship, for multiple reasons, from the Eagle Union, USS Arizona. Now, Arizona is an elite battleship that can be obtained from both building and as a map drop in several chapters. Now, she is in a very unique situation as an elite battleship in her rosters, but does that uniqueness make her stand out? Well, let's take a look at her overall kit and see just how she fares against her counterparts. On the survival side, Arizona has a decent 6k health pool that feels a little bit below average. Now, she does have heavy armor, so she'll be able to take attacks decently with its health pool, but she will still suffer heavily from battleship AP shots and torpedo-based attacks. So make sure to exercise some caution against enemies that are using those types of attacks. Her evasion also is a bit lower than average as well, so she's more likely to be hit than her elite counterparts, but the difference between the other backliners is not a lot, so it won't make a huge difference. She does at least stand above average in terms of anti-air, so she'll fare much better than her counterparts when it comes to shooting down air targets, as well as tanking attacks from the air. But of course, we wouldn't want her getting attacked by planes too much, right? Don't you think about bullying her. Anyway, what's interesting is that she starts off much like her sister Pennsylvania, being a bit below average in her stat line when you look at her compared to her counterparts. For those that have not seen my review on Pennsylvania, feel free to check out the iCard in the top corner right now. Thankfully, she does break this trend with anti-air, so she's off to a somewhat better start than her sister. However, will she be able to break this trend once we start looking into her offense side of her stat line? Unfortunately, that's not the case. Arizona's firepower is on the lower end of the spectrum with all elite battleships. This will mean her damage output will be a bit lower than her elite counterparts. In terms of her reload, she'll also be a bit slower in that department as well. This will lower her overall DPS, but the difference in reload is minimal enough to not have a major impact. Now, while she may have a lower DPS stat line wise, she may be able to make it up with her equipment efficiencies. Unfortunately, she does not get a leg up against most of her counterparts in this area either. Her main gun sits at the average efficiency of 130%. This means that with her lower firepower, she will not really be able to gain the upper hand against her counterparts in terms of damage. Now, her secondary gun also sits at the average efficiency of 200%, and is a DD gun only. So she may struggle a bit with range, but at least she'll be able to make it up with a little bit of a better fire rate. Nonetheless, all of these factors mean that she will not be able to make up the difference in service DPS against the other elites. Her anti-air gun also sits at the average of 100% as well, so she will have a major advantage in air defense compared to everyone else since she does have a better anti-air stat. Sorry Sandy, you might actually not be needed as badly this time around. Hey, that's not a bad thing. More time to practice your usual performances, right? Not to mention, you can train the others as well. Judging from her stat line alone, she's got a more defensive strength than an offensive one. For a backliner, this generally isn't the best thing, since backliners are where a lot of your heavy damage output comes from. If we were to look at her stats at level 120, we do see some interesting things happen. Some aspects of her stat line still lag behind most of her counterparts like health and reload. Now, granted, the bumps to her health are still a pretty solid amount. However, an interesting observation comes to her anti-air and firepower. She had a decent advantage in anti-air at level 100, but she actually starts to lose a little bit on this area to some now. She still does get a decent bump, let me at least make sure that's well known here, but it's not giving her an advantage as much anymore. Now this is not that bad, as she does shorten the gap in her firepower compared to the others. She still is behind most, but at least she's closer to them in terms of their stat on firepower. Now, all of this still cements the idea that she doesn't have much advantage over her counterparts, so let's see if her skills can switch things up for her a bit. Much like her sister, Arizona has one lone skill, but this is a yellow skill called Eagle's Tears, which allows her to have a 50% chance to heal the Vanguard fleet for up to 10% of their max health. This skill activates when she fires her main guns, so it's best to try to really push for her to have the ability to fire her gun quickly and try to utilize it as much as possible. Now, there is a downside to this being a coin flip heal, since 50% does have a pretty good chance of not happening. So, hope you're feeling pretty lucky when you bring her into combat with you. Also, this skill is Vanguard only, so you might have to bring someone else if you're looking to heal your backline as well. What's unique about this skill is that it is on a battleship. Healing skills are found almost entirely on carriers, so this does make her stand out for that part alone. This may not seem like much, but there is one other factor that comes from this. Battleships can defend themselves, while carriers usually can't. Granted, I'm saying usually because I've had a few scenarios where Zeppi and Saratoga have actually managed to somehow pull that off. Now, I will say the defense factor isn't much of one if you have a solid Vanguard or a good backline battleship to cover your carriers. Arizona does alleviate this concern by being able to take care of herself if something does become a threat to her. Having one less thing to worry about for your backline is definitely a nice thing. However, this is an advantage for some if they find that they need a better defense without sacrificing the healing. Overall, she's got a pretty unique quality to her with being a healer and a battleship. This particular quality can come in handy if you specifically require it. As I did mention, if you have a strong Vanguard or a solid battleship to provide the backline defense, then her unique quality may not be necessary for you. At the end of the day, it'll come down to what you really need for your fleet. Now the next question is she a mob or a boss fleet backliner? Well, healers aren't usually used in boss fleets, so she's going to definitely be a mob fleet backliner for sure. You'll be better off using ships more focused on damage output than healing for a boss fight. As it's always been well known, it's better to out DPS a boss, not to out tank it. So this is really the main reason I'd say she'll be better for a mob fleet. Once again, she'll be dependent on whether you need her for it compared to the other healers that we have at our roster currently. Thankfully, she also does provide some somewhat decent surface DPS with her main guns as well, so she'll still be able to contribute to the damage side if needed. Fleet-wise, she has no restrictions as well, so feel free to use her with anyone when needed. She can protect herself, but don't feel like you can't give her an extra support in regards to another battleship or two. At least just make sure you take care of her. Just remember she's been through a lot. Oh, and for the few of you who are still looking into maybe bullying her for any reason, I'm still watching you. Especially you, Jimmy. And that'll be all for the precious Arizona. Hope you enjoyed this and that'll help you in your future endeavors. Up next is the Black Dragon New Jersey herself. So look forward to her video when it comes out. Now, whether you're a regular viewer or a patron supporting the channel on Patreon, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys all again real soon.